The father of machines has finally got his own magic card! Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here today to continue on with our Modern Horizon set review and nose scratching. You know what, I don't even have an itchy nose right now, but just to make sure that you guys know where you are, do a little bit of face scratching just to make sure we're on the same page. Give you a little bit over here too. All right, so what's going down? We've got a whole new bunch of cards to the point where I shouldn't be wasting time with the face scratching. We should just dive right in, and we shall. Starting with the Collector Oof. 1 green, 1 colorless for a 2/2. Says activated abilities of artifacts can't be activated. He steals power from treasure. He steals power from treasure after treasure. And what does it do for the Oof? Nothing. That's a quote from Joya. I had a really hard time making it through that. He steals power from treasure after treasure. And what does it do for the youth? Nothing. So, you can see in the artwork, we have what looks like a crazy little gremlin guy. He's got a big old orange scruff. The oof is not a new concept. This is something, the first oof was back in Ice Age, as far as I recall. Was that the brown oof? Something like that. Something like that. So they had one back in Ice Age. They did one in 5th Dawn as well. Those were Vandals. So they've had different variations of oofs. There are some other ones as well, but you know, I'm not going to sit here. It's not a video reviewing every oof ever. Just taking a look at this. This one hunched down, you can see he's got some kind of stolen magic in his hand, and there's just other glows around him as well. He's just like, yep, I steal all the magic from inside your artifacts. That's pretty funky. It's like, I don't destroy artifacts, keep them. I've just run off with the magic. It's a fun concept, and overall, it doesn't seem like a terrible card at all. For a 2/2, just happens to shut off artifacts with activated abilities. Not too shabby. After that, we've got a reprint. We've got Eladamri's Call, representing him calling out for reinforcements. So, 1 white, 1 green, search your library for a creature card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library, do it at instant speed. And tribal rivalries and petty disputes were laid aside at Eladamri's summon. So we originally saw Eladamri as the Lord of Leaves all the way back in something like Tempest. It's one of those really old sets. He's an old school card that people really liked. This is a new variation of him, giving you some different flavor. He looks half decently similar to how he did before. It's not like they really went too far off the way he's supposed to look, but you've got him riding like a wild Colossus ram with these gigantic horns, and he's just sitting there looking all proud and regal. He looks pretty good, honestly. He looks like a leader, and I like the fact that there's like a shadowed creature in the background. There's someone in the shadows, which could be who he is summoning to serve him. This, as a reprint into Modern, actually feels like it's not too bad. 2 mana tutoring up any creature, not too shabby. This might actually be strong enough to affect Modern. After that, we've got, a card I'm absolutely in love with. 1 green, it's called Hexdrinker, which is a great name, by the way. This is a level up creature, and level up is an ability that we saw back, speaking of back, something's coming back, all right. We saw this back in the day of the original Zendikar block, where level up was brought in. And how it works is, with this creature in particular, you pay 1 colorless mana to level it up. So you put a counter on it, and the number of level counters it has equals the level it's at. So basically, you start out with 1 mana for a 2/1, which is already pretty solid right out of the gates. Like, 1 mana for a 2/1 is nothing to complain about. And then once you've leveled it up 3 times, it becomes protection from instants, and it's a base 4/4. So that's even more delicious. But where it gets really crazy is when you level it up 8 times, you've dumped 8 extra mana into it. Now it's a 6/6 protection from everything. And that's a really feel-good ability. Protection from instants is nice. You know that's going to take care of a lot of creature removal options. And you can't get me with those. But protection from everything is really, really strong. It protects you from, well, everything. There are still certain ways to get rid of it, though. Nothing is truly untouchable in the realm of Magic the Gathering. Now, what I like about this as well is the flavor behind it. You take a look at the artwork, and you have this snake in some kind of deep jungle scenario. I really like the colors of this card. I like the color of what looks like, it looks like it's been eating, it's either eating magic, drinking magic, however you want to look at it, because it is the Hexdrinker, swelling up. It's engorged on magic. And I like Hexdrinker is such a, it's such a perfect name for this. Now, technically, hexes are going to be like, they put a Wick hex on me. You're John Wick now. I'm going to get your puppy. No, they put a witch's hex on you, like, and so this to me is it just drinks up all magic, but it's the kind of name that like they would give it in some backwoods environment where they'd be like, don't go out into the woods at night, boy, or the Hexdrinkers will get you. And the Hexdrinkers are just kind of like a problem for people, and as they absorb more and more magic, they get stronger and stronger until it's like, all right, now they seem virtually indestructible. It's like, don't ever let a Hexdrinker get too big, or else the whole village will get wiped out. That's why we go on Hexdrinker hunts every year to make sure we keep their numbers low. That kind of thing. This feels like a really great card. I really, really like it. After that, we've got Ingenious Infiltrator. 1 black, 1 blue, 2 colors for a 2/3 Vidalcan Ninja. It's got ninjutsu for 2, so you can swap it for an unblocked creature, put it back in your hand. You put the unblocked creature back in your hand. You put the Ingenious Infiltrator out attacking in its spot, and its abilities, whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So I like that the ability hits all ninjas. The artwork is a hit and a miss for me. Honestly, I really like the darkened, kind of somewhat moonlit sky. I like that he's in here infiltrating late in the night. The problem for me is he doesn't really feel like a ninja because he's got these giant mechanical claws that will grasp up into the ceiling, and it sounds like something that would make a bunch of noise, in all honesty. It looks like, and conceptually to me, is something that would make a fair bit of noise, which takes away the whole ninja aspect. But for me, it's a win on top of the whole liking the background of like the dark sort of stormy, like moonlight night. I also like the fact that he's holding a scroll. That scroll represents the actual card that's being drawn. The idea is he's coming in and stealing knowledge, and that translates into you drawing a card. So I do like the flavor of that. After that, we've got Kess Dissonant Mage. This is 1 black, 1 red, and 1 blue for a 3/4 flying human wizard. During each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. If a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. And the flavor text says, loss has no meaning here. You cannot take from those who have nothing. So this looks to me like it might be set in the world of Grixis, because it almost looks like this set of stairs is carved into a living creature or something. You can see that there are what looks like some rib bones in the background. She's got the right colors to be Grixis. It gives that feel. And it's interesting to note as well, there was an issue with this card before because it was only available in foil. It came in one of the commander decks. It was only available in foil. And if you wanted to play with it in a deck, and it was the only foil you were playing in your deck, people could cut to it. It was very easy to cut to it specifically, and it ends up working like a marked card. So this is nice for those people, so they won't end up stuck in the same situation. They get a non-foil version of the card, and it won't cause the same deck issues where it's like, wait, I can cut to this every time. You can't use that in the event. Next up, we've got a rare that's been downshifted to uncommon, Nanticoke Cultivator. 1 green and 3 colors for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard any number of land cards, put that many +1/+1 counters on Nanticoke Cultivator, and draw that many cards. Every seed holds strength and teaches patience. Now, this originally came from Torment. I actually like this version better. I feel like the artwork fits better to a cultivator. You can see the plants around it, and I also like the more relaxed, non-combative pose that this creature has. It's clearly not charging into battle. It's thinking about other things with its existence. So overall, for me, this seems pretty sweet. And the fact that they downshifted it from rare to uncommon also works because in today's age, it really doesn't feel rare strength. Next up, we have a real treat. Sokovia Angel. 1 white for a 1/1 flying vigilance angel. When Wurzel summons Sokovia Angels to fight Thalmal's Garganticari Gnats, the ensuing battle numbered among the multiverse's least destructive. This card is a lot of fun on multiple levels. What's going on here is these are angels that come specifically, obviously, from Sokovia. If you haven't seen my lore video talking about Sokovia, it's a minute world where everything is very, very, very small. So this 1/1 angel is like the equivalent of a Sarah angel, but just downscaled. So your Sarah Angel's 4/4 with the same abilities. This one's a 1/1. I love the fact that the artwork actually, to me, feels like it's transmitting that this angel is tiny. I don't know about art styles and way of depicting things and how they managed to accomplish this effect, but it genuinely does give it the feel of like a little Tinkerbell-sized angel, and the flavor text is fun. The idea of taking tiny little gnat insects and someone getting gigantic versions of them, and then to fight against giant gnats, you summon an army of tiny angels, and that it's numbered amongst the multiverse's least destructive battles. That's really fun. I really like the flavor behind this card a lot. Honestly, this card may not feel super powerful, but it's just adorable. It's a lovable card. Next up, we've got Spell Snuff. 2 blue and a colorless for an instant that counters target spell. It's got Fateful Hour. If you have 5 or less life, you draw a card. What's going on in the artwork is there is a flame spell that's actually being pinched out like you would pinch out a candle at night. Like you would just lick your fingers, reach out, and put out a tiny flame. I really like this. Honestly, this is a power intimidation move. You're playing against, you're locked in a magical battle with some other shaman or wizard, and they start lobbing fire at you, and you just reach out and grab it, and it just streams away to smoke between your fingers. That is really cool. The good night flavor text doesn't really turn my crank. I mean, I get the reference where it's supposed to be, here, you're putting out the candle and go to sleep. It doesn't land for me, but the flavor behind it with the snuffing of the spell and the way that it's shown in the artwork, I really dig the concept of this card. Clearly, everybody who was hoping for counterspell in this set is crying into their tea right now. Next up, we have got String of Disappearances. 1 blue instant, return target creature to its owner's hand. Then that creature's controller may pay 2 blue. If the player does, they may copy the spell and may choose a new target for that copy. You may know this as some kind of variation on Chain Lightning. You could think, oh wow, this is kind of similar to Chain Lightning, although not nearly as powerful, or Chain of Vapor. Those are 2 cards that people may think of. The artwork is really funky, showing multiple people being unmade at once. It makes me wonder what this artwork may have originally been intended for something that creates copies, maybe? Or I don't know. Either way, the artwork is really interesting on this one. I genuinely like it. It actually kind of makes me think of the weird abstract kind of stuff you would see on the original Time Walk, where you're like, what exactly is going on here? But either way, a String of Disappearances, you can see the spell bouncing from creature to creature. Obviously, in most cases, you're going to see it bounce back and forth if someone was making, like, how often are you going to play this on your own creature and bounce your own back? I don't see it. After that, we're moving into the Talisman cycle. This is completing a cycle that started in Mirrodin. Mirrodin had all the ally-colored talismans, and now we're bringing in the enemy-colored talismans, and they're pretty solid. I mean, they're mana rocks that only cost 2 to put out and can produce 2 different colors of mana for you. Of course, they do damage to you, so they are similar in a way to Pain Lands as well, like the old school Pain Lands. So we're going to start out with Talisman of Conviction. 2 colorless, obviously, they're all 2 colorless. They will all tap for 1 colorless mana, and then the second ability will be tap, add for a red or a white to your mana pool. Talisman of Conviction deals 1 damage to you. Each talisman is going to follow this exact recipe. The flavor text says, the sun banishes darkness every morning. I too will rise with such assuredness. That's a pretty good quote. I like that. And the artwork depicts the talisman itself. It's laying on a table. It's got that rough kind of feel. You could see this being something that the dinosaur folk had. The quote is attributed to Huatli. And so you can see quite obviously in the artwork what colors it makes, white and red. And I like the way that they're pointing in opposite directions with like parts of the... These almost make me think of old dwarven shields. Now they're too small to be dwarven shields, but that's just the feeling that these talismans bring to the table. But these are a good include for Modern, in all honesty. These seem like a solid include. People are going to be happy to get their hands on these talismans because the tally me bananas. The talismans have been in higher demand as years have gone by since they were originally printed in the Mirrodin block. Next, we've got Talisman of Creativity. Same thing, 2 colorless, tap for a colorless. This one gives you your blue and your red, deals a damage to you. Flavor text says, good ideas don't take time. They take a lot of bad ideas first. The flavor text The flavor text does not nail it for me. The artwork's nice though. I like this. It almost feels like it's a tree with these fruits growing off it, and you have your ripe blue and red fruit ready to be plucked. They also kind of give like a jewelry feel to it, where it's like, these could be Mox-esque kind of artifacts attached to this. Clearly they're not, because the talisman isn't nearly as powerful as a Mox, but it does have that flavor, and I like the purple curtain that's set behind it. Honestly, this artwork to me is very striking. I enjoy this talisman particularly. The next one, Talisman of Curiosity. What I was most curious about at first was, wait, doesn't this thing just have one color in the center? But this is the green-blue talisman, and you will actually see, if you look really closely, that the gem set in the middle there is actually a combination of 2 gems. It is both green and blue. And the flavor text says, the pain of exploring is less than the pain of not knowing. Well, you know what? That seems like a quote that could be attributed to a wandering adventurer style person, where they're like, I can't handle not knowing. I need to go and explore the unknown. And a lot of things have been learned by mankind with that kind of a drive being brought to the table. This artwork is pretty good. I mean, I like the talisman. It's leaned up against a couple of books in a more scholarly kind of setting. You can see that there's the quill there, some maps, or whatever else. They could be spell scrolls, but when you tie it into the flavor text and the idea of exploring, the concept of maps and books, these could also be guides to places. So overall, I feel like this is tied together pretty well. Moving on, we get the Talisman of Hierarchy. This is same deal, 2 to put out, get a colorless, or for this case, it's a white or a black if you're going to take a damage. You never get to the top if you don't know who's already there. You'll never get to the top if you don't know who's already there. This is not good flavor text to me. I don't particularly enjoy it. I do like the fact that the talisman is kind of laid on a chessboard that's in disarray, like it was just kind of plopped onto the board and knocked pieces out of the way. This talisman is very ornate. I like the white and black triangles that are pointing together with all the arrows around it. It almost gives it like a compass feel, and it's on a very intricate looking chess table as well. So overall, this is visually striking, and I like the lighting effects too, where there's probably a torch or like a lamp somewhere over here, and you can see the light starts on one side and fades to darkness on the other. This is a cool card. The flavor text is a miss for me though. And the last talisman is Talisman of Resilience. 2 colorless, obviously, taps for colorless. You get your black or your green from this one. The continual rise of the downtrodden is as inevitable as vines usurping a forest. All right, it's not terrible flavor text. It's not mind-blowing flavor text. I like the fact that the vine concept is actually shown on the talisman. You can see a bunch of vines. You can see like some animal skull and ribs over there down on the side, and it's leaned up against a rock. So you've got both your nature feel and your black feel from the remnants of a living creature there. So it ties that flavor together nicely. And also for the nature, I like that there's that clover growing over to the side. The green and black gems actually affixed to the talisman. This is the ugliest talisman. This is by far the ugliest looking talisman. It definitely all fits together flavor-wise for the colors, but in terms of looks, it's oogly. It's oogly. Now, speaking of ugly, let's look at somebody who's done some ugly, ugly things. It's time to talk about the father of machines, the one and only Yawgmoth, the Ineffable. My lord, it is so cool that they have made him as a card. I was super excited about Urza. I'm super excited about Yawgmoth. This is another card that deserves its own lore video where we talk about where he's at this point in history, because this is before he became a mix of man and machine and fused into Phyrexia. He, unlike Urza, never really became a planeswalker. But we have Yawgmoth Thran Physician, before I keep yammering on about him. 2 black, 2 colorless. He's a 2/4 with protection from humans. Now, I think this protection from humans is supposed to represent his political maneuvering to keep himself as a part of society, because he was ostracized for his healing techniques being questionable, doing things that people didn't like. So he was removed from society, but then he managed to get himself back in there and manipulate government to the point where he was able to move into positions of power. He was called back actually because Glacian, who is a character in Magic history, was sick and they couldn't figure out how to help him. And so somebody who cared very much about Glacian pulled some strings to get Yawgmoth brought back, thinking Yawgmoth could help with Glacian's condition. In Glacian's condition, Fyres specifically ended up being linked to Power Stones. Exposure to Power Stones causes Phyrexian corruption. Now his second ability is pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. So this is the whole idea of experimenting on people to gain knowledge, doing horrific things to gain valuable knowledge from his perspective. And actually there's a list of all kinds of different atrocities. I can't remember like off the top of my head a lot of them. I think it was things like bringing the White Death to the Hurloon Minotaur. Was it Hurloon Minotaurs or a different clan of Minotaurs? Either way, there was a number of different races that he just went, including humans. Nobody was safe from his depredations. But he went and messed with Minotaurs. He would introduce plagues and poisons to all kinds of different populations to find out how they were how they would handle it. So his second ability and his third ability actually feel like they tie into that, because his third ability is pay 2 black, discard a card, proliferate. So you would remove the counters around, increase the counters, but because he puts -1/-1 counters on creatures, you can see him going ahead and spreading that, where it's just like, okay, I'm going to make the diseases that exist more intense. And he would pull awful things where he would just basically go, all right, I'm going to poison these people and send them down to work in the mines. And then when these people come back into the mines and it's causing problems, we're going to give them cures. But then we're going to make sure the cures aren't quite strong enough so these people will revolt. But the revolt is just an excuse to try and get more and more power for him as being part of the government. And eventually he ends up in charge of like the, what's the equivalent of almost like that government's royal guard. And he just ends up with an unacceptable amount of power. And then it just gets worse from there, where he meets a planeswalker and convinces them that, hey, what I want to do is create a separate plane of existence where we can make this like a paradise kind of place for my people, where we can heal them, where we can work on all of this. And that's how Phyrexia starts being born. And it's just this big, long story of his ascension to god-esque-hood, and in some ways more powerful, being more powerful than a god. He really did rise above the level that most humans could ever hope to accomplish. And I like this artwork. I like the artwork showing him in a laboratory with all kinds of crystals. So you've got all your Thran crystals and things like that. Fyres, which is the Phyrexian disease. Fyres, which is what was used to corrupt Mirrodin. That all stems back to the study of Power Stones and the Thran. And the Thran are such an interesting race to have in this, because the Thran are who Urza studied the Thran trying to destroy Phyrexia and to destroy Yawgmoth. But the thing is, Yawgmoth is one of the Thran, and Urza didn't know that. So he's basing all these studies on the Thran. There's all this crazy stuff. There's just so much that ties Yawgmoth to Urza and the old story. He was the biggest, baddest villain for the longest time in Magic, and he was so incredibly epic. He broke Urza's brain. He wasn't even a planeswalker. Like, Yawgmoth wasn't a planeswalker, and he managed to break Urza's brain. So you see him here. You can see the Phyrexian symbol at his belt. You can see him in front of a blood red window. This artwork has a lot of menace to it, a lot of malice. I like it. He's just standing there, just figuring out how he's going to continue to further his evil plans. Now, I could go on about this forever. So let's say, put a pin in it. We're going to give him his own lore video, and let us move on to the next card. And the final card of the spoilers. Zhalfirin Decoy. 1 white, 1 colorless for a 1/3. You tap it to tap target creature. Activate this ability only if you had a creature under the battlefield under your control this turn. Never let them take your eyes off. Never let them take their eyes off you, says Sidar Jabari. And Sidar Jabari is an old Legends creature, specifically an old legendary creature from Mirage, if I'm not mistaken. This is also a nod to the Master Decoy, which is 1 white and tap target creature. Now, admittedly, this is both weaker and stronger. It's weaker in that you can only use it if you've played a creature. It's stronger in that you don't have to spend the mana to use it. Plus, it has 1 more toughness than the Master Decoy. Now, the artwork is, it's a lot of fun. It's a unicorn zebra with big Mickey Mouse ears being ridden by a guy who has this crazy like penny cape, like, look at me, follow me. It's so just vibrant and over the top. and he's just charging through these fields of wheat. And there's something about it that I find to be extremely enjoyable. It's just got this whimsy and ridiculousness to it. It's not as awesome as, let's say, the Angel that we talked about earlier, but I would say that it is one of the most whimsical cards that I have seen from Modern Horizons, and I genuinely enjoy the sense of whimsy that it encompasses. So, at this point, we've talked about all the cards that are in the video for today. We will come back tomorrow with some more of these reviews. In the meantime, let us roll the Golden Scroll. These are the people who have my back on Patreon or through channel memberships. Now, we're welcoming aboard a few new names to the scroll. We've got Pele Pelagia and Hello Abu over on the channel membership side. Thank you very much for joining up there, boys. It is appreciated. And on the Patreon side, we have Stephen DeFio, who signed up to Patreon just to support me. So thanks, brother. Appreciate it very much. You will see your names in this beautiful golden scroll that is rolling by. So now that we've covered all that, all that's left to say is thanks for being here. And for now, I'm history, baby.